In the heart of the lush, green landscape of Africa, nestled at the foot of towering mountain ranges, lies the small village of Ubunzu. It is a place where tradition and culture thrive, passed down through generations. The villagers live simple yet fulfilling lives, bound by a strong sense of community. Fields of maize and crops stretch across the land, and the rhythm of daily life is marked by farming, storytelling, and communal gatherings. The village is vibrant, and its people are known for their warm hospitality and deep connection to the earth. In this peaceful village, there lives a young woman named Zawadi. She is admired by all for her beauty, wisdom, and kind heart. Zawadi's presence is as gentle as the breeze that sweeps across the fields. She is graceful, with eyes that seem to carry the weight of ancient wisdom despite her youth. Zawadi's charm is undeniable, and her kindness knows no bounds. She often helps the elders with their chores, listens to their stories, and offers advice to those in need. Her life is one of quiet strength, an embodiment of her late mother's legacy, who passed away when Zawadi was only a child. Zawadi's father, Chief Niazi, is a respected elder in the village. His words carry weight, and his decisions shape the future of Ubuntu. He raised Zawadi alone after the death of her mother, teaching her the ways of their people, the importance of respect, and the value of wisdom. Zawadi has inherited much of her father's calm demeanor and thoughtful approach to life. Together, they are well respected in the community, and Zawadi has become a beacon of hope for the village's future. But Zawadi's life is not without complications. Her stepmother Shira has recently entered their lives. Shira is an ambitious woman, determined to secure a better position for herself and her daughter, Tatu. While outwardly kind, Shira's intentions are driven by a desire to rise in the village's hierarchy. She sees Zawadi as a threat to her daughter's chances of success, and the young woman's beauty only fuels Shira's jealousy. Shira's plan is clear. She aims to ensure that her daughter Tatu takes Zawadi's place as the most admired and respected woman in the village. While Shira is consumed by her own ambitions, Zawadi remains unaware of the brewing tension. Her charm and pure nature continue to win the affection of everyone she meets, especially the village elders. To them, Zawadi represents everything they hold dear: the future of their traditions, the continuity of their values, and the hope for a prosperous tomorrow. They see in her not just a beautiful young woman, but a keeper of the village's soul, and they trust her with their hopes and dreams. In the midst of this serene and loving environment, Zawadi's life is about to change. The arrival of an outsider, one who has the power to disrupt the village's delicate balance, will set the stage for a series of events that will test Zawadi's strength, her love, and her loyalty. As Zawadi matures, her beauty only grows, and her grace becomes the talk of the village. The elders and villagers alike admire her for not just her looks, but for her kindness and wisdom. It is no surprise when rumors start spreading that Prince Mwamba, the young and promising heir to a neighboring kingdom, is planning a visit to Ubuntu. His family, seeking to build alliances and secure a prestigious marriage, has set their eyes on the village's most eligible women. The entire village is abuzz with anticipation as the prince's arrival draws near, and the women prepare to present themselves in their finest. Zawadi, with her radiant beauty and noble character, quickly becomes the subject of conversation among the villagers. Everyone believes that she will catch the prince's eye, and many hope that she will be the one to marry him, bringing honor to the village. However, not everyone is pleased with this turn of events. Shira, Zawadi's stepmother, has begun to harbor a deep sense of jealousy. While she outwardly supports Zawadi, Shira's heart is consumed by resentment. She fears that if Zawadi wins the prince's heart, her own daughter Tatu will be left behind. Tatu, though beautiful in her own right, lacks Zawadi's pure, selfless nature. But it is not just beauty that Shira seeks. She craves the wealth, status, and power that would come with an alliance to the royal family. Shira dreams of seeing Tatu seated on the throne beside Prince Mwamba, and she is willing to do whatever it takes to make that dream a reality. The stepmother's jealousy starts to fester and grow. Shira begins to see Zawadi as a threat not just to her own ambitions, but to her daughter's future. She secretly begins to form a plan, one that involves tarnishing Zawadi's reputation in the eyes of the prince and the village. Her thoughts are dark, and her heart is hardened by envy. She knows that the prince will only choose a woman whose character aligns with his values, and so Shira sets out to destroy Zawadi's image, carefully crafting rumors and lies that could turn the villagers, and especially the prince, against her. While Zawadi remains unaware of her stepmother's schemes, Shira's actions grow more sinister. She watches from the shadows, calculating her every move, her eyes constantly on Zawadi, hoping to see a crack in her stepdaughter's flawless reputation. The competition for the prince's affection is fierce, and Shira is determined to ensure that Tatu stands victorious, even if it means sacrificing Zawadi's future. The day finally arrives, when Prince Mwamba and his grand entourage make their way to the village of Ubun. The air is filled with excitement as the royal procession moves through the village, drawing the eyes of every villager. The prince's arrival is nothing short of majestic, his fine clothes shimmering under the sun, his horse prancing proudly as his guards and servants follow closely behind. The entire village gathers to catch a glimpse of the young, handsome prince, whose presence alone commands attention. There is a palpable energy in the air as everyone wonders what this visit will bring to their humble village. Prince Mwamba carries himself with the regal elegance that comes with his title. But there is something more to him than just his royal status. Beneath the polished exterior and the weight of his responsibilities lies a young man burdened by the expectations of his family and his kingdom. His father, the king, has already made plans for him to marry a princess from a neighboring kingdom, a match that will strengthen political alliances and secure his rule. Mwamba is aware of his duty, but it is a duty that feels more like a chain around his neck than a privilege. He longs for something more than just an arranged marriage. He craves love, a connection that goes beyond the royal obligations that have been laid out before him. When Prince Mwamba is introduced to Zawadi, he is immediately struck by her presence. She stands tall and confident, her beauty matched only by the kindness in her eyes. Zawadi is not just a pretty face, she is a woman of substance. As they exchange words, Mwamba is captivated not only by her appearance but by her intelligence, the grace with which she speaks, and the genuine compassion she shows toward the villagers. She is the kind of woman who commands respect without trying, whose strength lies in her quiet, unwavering demeanor. Mwamba finds himself drawn to Zawadi in a way that he has never experienced before. There is something about her that sparks an unfamiliar warmth in his heart, a connection that he cannot ignore. Her genuine care for the people of the village speaks to a deeper character, one that resonates with him on a personal level. He begins to feel that perhaps his future does not have to be dictated by royal duty alone. However, as his feelings for Zawadi begin to grow, the weight of his responsibilities becomes even more apparent. His advisors and father are already pushing him toward a marriage with the princess from the neighboring kingdom, a marriage that will fulfill his political duty but not his personal desires. Mwamba finds himself torn between the future that is being mapped out for him and the budding feelings he has for the woman standing before him, a woman who seems to embody everything he has always longed for. Shira, fueled by jealousy and her desperate desire to see her daughter Tatu marry Prince Mwamba, decides to take matters into her own hands. Realizing that the prince's affection for Zawadi is growing, she begins to weave a web of deception aimed at destroying Zawadi's reputation. She knows that the prince values honor and integrity above all else, and she exploits this by spreading malicious rumors that cast doubt on Zawadi's character. One evening, when Prince Mwamba is alone in the village, Shira seizes the opportunity to approach him. She acts as if she's offering him a warning, her tone conspiratorial and filled with faux concern. With carefully chosen words, She tells the prince that Zawadi, despite her beauty and charm, is already betrothed to a wealthy merchant named Khalid. Shira describes Khalid as a man of great wealth and influence, a suitor who has promised to take Zawadi away from the village, to live a life of luxury far beyond the simple life of a village girl. She makes it sound as though Zawadi's engagement is an established fact, presenting it as a done deal that no one can change. Shira's lies are cunningly woven, designed to make Zawadi appear untrustworthy. She claims that Zawadi's attraction to the prince is a mere flirtation, and that she has already pledged herself to Khalid, the merchant who is poised to whisk her away. Shira's manipulation is subtle, but effective, as she knows that Mwamba's sense of duty and honor will make him think twice before pursuing a woman who is already promised to another. She tells him that it would be unseemly for him to pursue a woman who is already engaged, and that he would be better off seeking a bride who is truly available. Meanwhile, Zawadi remains blissfully unaware of the malicious rumors being spread about her. She continues to interact with Prince Mwamba in friendly conversations, unaware that Shira's lies are creating doubts in his mind. Zawadi, who has never been one to play games or manipulate others, believes that the prince's interest in her is genuine and that their growing connection is based on mutual respect and admiration. As she spends more time with him, their bond deepens, and she begins to imagine a future together, unaware of the dark forces that are conspiring to tear them apart. Zawadi's innocence makes her an easy target for Shira's lies. She does not suspect that anyone would want to harm her reputation, especially not her own stepmother. She is convinced that her kindness and authenticity will win Prince Mwamba's heart, but little does she know that Shira's deception is threatening everything she holds dear. One evening, as the golden rays of the setting sun painted the village in a soft glow, Zawadi found herself walking along the familiar path toward her father's home. As she passed by the large ancient baobab tree that stood near the village square, she paused when she overheard voices coming from behind the tree. It was a conversation she was never meant to hear, but the words that reached her ears would forever change her life. Zawadi stood frozen, her heart racing as she recognized the voices of her stepmother, Shira, and one of the village elders. The elder's voice was low, filled with concern, but Shira's voice, sharp and tinged with bitterness, carried clearly through the quiet evening air. She was speaking with an unsettling confidence, telling the elder how she had carefully orchestrated the rumors about Zawadi. Zawadi could hear her stepmother speaking of how she had gone to great lengths to destroy her reputation in order to secure Tatu's place at Prince Mwamba's side. Shira spoke of how she had fabricated the story of Zawadi's supposed engagement to the wealthy merchant Khalid, carefully planting the seed of doubt in the prince's mind. She even went as far as to claim that Zawadi had led the prince on with false pretenses, all to ensure that Tatu, her own daughter, would be the one to win the prince's heart and secure a prosperous future. Shira's voice was filled with envy and resentment, and Zawadi could hear the unmistakable bitterness in her words as she spoke of her stepdaughter. "I'll do whatever it takes for Tatu to have everything Zawadi has." Shira's words echoed through the quiet evening air. She deserves it all. Zawadi has always had the beauty, the charm, the prince's attention. Now, I'll make sure Tatu takes what's rightfully hers. Zawadi's breath caught in her throat as the reality of what she was hearing sunk in. Her stepmother, the woman who had raised her, had been betraying her all along. It wasn't just the prince's affections that Shira was after. It was her entire life, her future, her happiness. Zawadi felt as though the ground beneath her feet had vanished. The woman she had trusted, the woman who had been like a mother to her, had plotted against her, sabotaging her chances at love, all for the sake of her own daughter's ambition. With her heart heavy with sorrow, Zawadi made her way toward the house, her thoughts swirling in a storm of betrayal and disbelief. She could feel the anger bubbling up inside her, but more than anything, she felt a deep, crushing sadness. How could Shira, the very woman who had been in her life for so long, do something so cruel? How could she turn her own daughter against her? Later that night, Zawadi could no longer contain the heartbreak. She confronted Shira in the privacy of their home, her voice shaking with the weight of the revelation. "Why?" she asked, her voice thick with emotion. "Why would you do this to me? What have I ever done to deserve this?" Shira, cornered and unable to hide the truth any longer, admitted everything. There was no remorse in her eyes, only bitterness. "You have everything," she spat. "The beauty, the kindness, the attention of the prince. Tatu deserves it all. She deserves what you have, and I will stop at nothing to make sure she gets it." Zawadi's heart shattered as the truth of her stepmother's jealousy and resentment hit her like a physical blow. The realization that her own family had plotted against her, manipulating her life for their own gain, left her feeling empty and alone. The betrayal cut deeper than she could have ever imagined, and she wondered if there was anything left for her in the world she had once trusted. Prince Mwamba stood alone in the royal gardens, the cool evening breeze ruffling his dark, neatly braided hair as he stared out at the horizon. The dazzling array of stars in the night sky failed to bring him comfort. Instead, they seemed to mock him. His heart was a tumult of confusion and doubt. What had started as a simple visit to the village, with the hopes of securing an alliance through marriage, had turned into a battle of emotions that left him torn between his duties as a prince and his feelings for a woman he barely knew. His advisors had been adamant: marry someone from his own kingdom, secure the future of the monarchy and continue the family's legacy. A marriage to a neighboring princess, someone politically aligned with his father's vision, was the ideal outcome. The prince's duty was clear, or so they told him. Yet with every passing moment spent in Zawadi's presence, he found his heart pulling him in a different direction. He had tried to dismiss it at first, reasoning that his feelings for her were mere infatuation, something fleeting. But that was before he heard the rumors, before the seeds of doubt had been planted in his mind by Shira, and before his heart had been swayed by her false whispers. Prince Mwamba had learned that Zawadi was supposedly betrothed to Khalid, a wealthy merchant, and that she had been leading him on with false hopes. This information, which Shira had carefully orchestrated, caused a storm of emotions within him. How could the woman he had been growing to love be engaged to someone else? How could she have been hiding this secret from him, playing with his heart? The prince couldn't shake the doubt that gnawed at him. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. The information didn't sit right, and the idea that Zawadi, the kind, gentle woman he had gotten to know, could be so deceitful felt impossible. With a heavy heart, he sought her out. He couldn't remain in the dark, wrestling with half-truths and manipulation any longer. He needed to hear Zawadi's side of the story. When they finally came face to face, Zawadi's eyes were red from the tears she had shed in the wake of her stepmother's betrayal. But even in the midst of her pain, there was a quiet strength about her that moved him deeply. "I know you've heard things," Zawadi said softly, her voice steady despite the anguish she was feeling. "But I swear, everything I've done has been with honesty and integrity. I never intended to deceive you." As Zawadi explained the lies that had been spread by Shira, the prince's anger grew, but so did his admiration for her. He realized that she had been the victim in all of this, manipulated by the very people she had trusted the most. Her heart was pure, and the love she had shown him was real. Mwamba's heart swelled with a renewed sense of clarity. His love for Zawadi wasn't born from political necessity or familial duty. It was something real and deep, something that had defied the expectations placed on him as a prince. His mind was made up. The political alliances, the arranged marriages, and the opinions of his advisors no longer mattered. He reached out and gently took Zawadi's hand in his, the touch sending a surge of warmth through his chest. "I believe you," he said, his voice steady and filled with conviction, "and I will not let anyone tear us apart." In that moment, Prince Mwamba realized that his love for Zawadi was not a mere passing fancy or an obligation. It was a bond forged in truth and mutual respect, and no amount of manipulation or deceit could change that. Zawadi sat quietly on the edge of the small porch, the soft murmur of the village's evening activities echoing faintly in the background. The vibrant, golden hues of sunset had given way to a dusky twilight, but her mind remained clouded with the weight of the decision before her. Prince Mwamba's words echoed in her ears, his pledge of love, his unwavering support despite the pain and confusion caused by her stepmother's lies. Yet, as her heart yearned to run to him, her fears weighed heavily on her spirit. She couldn't ignore the complexity of their situation. As much as she longed to be with Mwamba, she knew that a life with him would come at a great cost. She had grown up in a village where loyalty, family, and tradition mattered above all else. The prospect of leaving her home, of stepping into a world that would expect her to leave behind the simplicity of her village life, was overwhelming. Would the prince truly be able to protect her from the people who sought to tear her down? Could they weather the challenges together? Or would their love be consumed by the forces beyond their control? Her thoughts swirled in turmoil, and Zawadi knew that she could not make this choice alone. She stood up and walked to her father's modest hut, seeking the wisdom of the one person who had always been there for her, the one who had guided her through life with patience and understanding. Chief Niazi. Her father sat on a weathered chair, his face wrinkled with age, but soft with the calm wisdom that had earned him the respect of the entire village. Zawadi sat beside him, her eyes filled with questions, her heart heavy with uncertainty. "Father," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "I love him, but I fear what will come of it. The lies, the betrayal. It feels like everything is against us. What should I do?" Chief Niazi's eyes softened as he looked at her, and he took her hands into his. "Zawadi, love is never without sacrifice. It is a force that can carry us through the darkest times, but it also requires us to face our deepest fears. You are strong, my daughter, and you must trust in your heart. No matter the path you choose, you must be true to yourself." Zawadi nodded, the weight of his words settling within her. She understood what he meant. True love required not just passion, but courage. The courage to defy the odds, to fight for what she believed in, and to trust in the strength of her own heart. After a long silence, she finally spoke, her voice filled with quiet determination. "I will not let the lies of Shira or anyone else control my future. If love is built on trust and respect, then I will choose that love, even if it means facing the unknown." Her father smiled, a look of pride in his eyes. "Then you have made your choice, my daughter. Follow your heart, for it will never lead you astray." With a renewed sense of clarity, Zawadi knew what she had to do. She would embrace her love for Prince Mwamba, despite the challenges that lay ahead. She was ready to face the consequences, because she believed in their love, in its purity, and in its ability to withstand anything the world might throw at them. The sun was high in the sky, casting its golden light over the village of Ubun as Zawadi and Prince Mwamba made their way toward the central square. The air was thick with anticipation, a heavy silence hanging over the villagers who had gathered to witness what would surely be a momentous event. News of Zawadi's confrontation with her stepmother, Shira, had spread like wildfire, and now the time had come for the truth to be revealed. Zawadi's heart raced as she walked beside Mwamba. His presence was a source of strength for her, his hand gently resting on her shoulder, offering silent support. His eyes were filled with determination, and Zawadi could sense that he, too, was ready to face the storm that was about to unfold. As they entered the square, Shira and Tatu stood near the village centre, surrounded by a few villagers who looked on with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Shira's face, usually a mask of sweetness and charm, was now strained, her eyes flicking nervously from Zawadi to the prince. Tatu stood by her mother's side, her expression a blend of confusion and fear. Zawadi stepped forward, her voice steady, but filled with the weight of the truth she was about to speak. "Shira," she began, her gaze locking onto her stepmother. "The lies you've spread about me have not only hurt me, but they have betrayed this entire village. The prince and I are here to reveal the truth, and today you will face the consequences of your deceit." The crowd fell silent, every eye turning towards Shira, who now seemed smaller, more vulnerable than ever before. The guilt that had once been buried beneath layers of manipulation was now written plainly on her face. Mwamba's voice rang out, clear and firm. "Shira, your actions have not gone unnoticed. You sought to tear apart a love that was pure and true for your own selfish gain. You manipulated the truth, casting lies about Zawadi's character, and you did it all for power." Zawadi's heart pounded in her chest as Mwamba continued. "But what you failed to see is that the love I have for Zawadi is not built on status or position. It is built on trust, honesty, and her kindness toward others. She is the one who holds my heart, not because of who she is on paper, but because of the purity of her spirit." The villagers gasped in shock, their eyes darting from Zawadi to Shira. The truth was now in the open, and the weight of Shira's betrayal was palpable. One by one, the villagers turned their backs on her, their faith shattered by the lies she had spread. Shira stood frozen, her face turning pale as the realization of her actions settled in. Her once powerful position in the village, built on manipulation and deceit, was crumbling before her eyes. Tatu, too, seemed to shrink in the face of the truth, her mother's actions now exposed for what they were. Zawadi's voice trembled with a mixture of sadness and relief. "I never wanted this conflict. All I wanted was to live my life in peace, to love, and be loved in return. But you—" She paused, taking a deep breath. "You forced me into this, with your lies and schemes." The prince's hand tightened on her shoulder, a silent show of solidarity as the crowd continued to watch in stunned silence. Then, with a final, decisive word, Mwamba declared, "Shira, you are no longer welcome here. Your deceit has no place among us." With those words, the village turned its back on Shira and Tatu, casting them out as outcasts. Zawadi and Mwamba stood together, their love now visible to all, a love that was founded on truth, purity, and the strength of their hearts. The villagers, once divided by Shira's manipulation, now stood united, their respect for Zawadi reaffirmed, and their faith in love restored. As Zawadi looked into Prince Mwamba's eyes, she knew that the road ahead would not be without challenges, but she was no longer afraid. Together, they had faced the storm and emerged stronger, bound by love, honesty, and the courage to fight for what was right. The celebration in the village of Ubun was unlike any the people had ever witnessed. After the public confrontation with Shira, the atmosphere had shifted from one of tension and uncertainty to one of joy and hope. The villagers, now united in their admiration for Zawadi and Prince Mwamba, were eager to show their support for the couple's future. The air was filled with music, laughter, and the aroma of traditional dishes being prepared. Colourful decorations adorned every hut, and the vibrant spirit of the village was contagious. Young women and men danced together, their steps lively as they celebrated the union of two souls destined to be together despite all the obstacles they had faced. Zawadi and Prince Mwamba stood at the centre of the square, their hands entwined as they smiled at the celebration around them. Zawadi's heart swelled with love, not only for the prince but for the village that had once doubted her and now stood by her side. Mwamba, too, looked at her with pride, his love for her evident in the way his gaze lingered on her. As the celebration continued, the village elders approached the couple, offering blessings for their future. Chief Niazi, Zawadi's father, stood beside them, a proud smile on his face. He had watched his daughter grow into the woman she was now, strong, resilient, and full of grace. He had always known that Zawadi's heart was pure, and he was pleased to see that Mwamba had come to the same realization. "This is just the beginning," Chief Niazi said, his voice filled with warmth. "Together, you will lead this village and your people to new heights. May your love for one another guide you through the challenges that lie ahead." Zawadi's heart swelled with gratitude as she looked at Mwamba. Their love had been tested in the most painful way, but now it was stronger than ever. They were not only partners in love but in leadership, determined to blend their cultures and traditions in a way that honored both the village and the royal family. Zawadi's journey had not been easy, but she had shown the young women of the village that love was not just about romantic gestures. It was about courage, sacrifice, and the willingness to fight for what was right. Her story was one of resilience, and her strength had become an inspiration for the women who now looked to her as a role model. With Mwamba by her side, Zawadi knew that they would face any challenge that came their way. Together, they would blend their royal duties with the traditions of the village, ensuring that both were respected. They would rule with wisdom and compassion, always putting the needs of the people first. As the evening drew to a close, the moonlight bathed the village in a soft glow, and Zawadi and Mwamba shared a quiet moment together. They knew that the path ahead would not be without its difficulties, but they were ready to walk it side by side. Their future was bright, and their love, unshaken by betrayal, was the foundation upon which they would build a new life, a life filled with hope, promise, and a deep, abiding connection. Hand in hand, they faced the horizon, ready to embrace the future together, their hearts intertwined, bound by love, trust, and the strength of their shared journey. Years passed, and the village of Ubunzu flourished under the rule of Zawadi and Prince Mwamba. The once doubtful villagers now looked to Zawadi with admiration, not just for her beauty, but for the strength she had shown through her trials. Her kindness, wisdom, and ability to forgive had earned her the deep respect of her people. She was no longer just the daughter of Chief Niazi. She had become a leader in her own right, beloved and trusted by all. Together, Zawadi and Mwamba worked hand in hand to nurture the village. They introduced new farming techniques, improved trade with neighboring villages, and ensured that every villager had access to education. The prince's royal knowledge and Zawadi's innate understanding of the land and its people created a perfect balance, and the village began to thrive like never before. In the heart of the village, Zawadi often held meetings with the elders, offering her wisdom in matters of governance and community. She became known not just as a ruler, but as a mentor, a guide who always put the needs of others before her own. Prince Mwamba stood by her side, proud of the woman she had become, and together they led their people into a new era of prosperity and harmony. Meanwhile, Shira, now isolated from the village, lived in quiet reflection. Her jealousy had torn apart not just her relationship with Zawadi, but her standing in the community. No one would speak to her, and her own daughter, Tatu, had grown distant, ashamed of her mother's actions. Though Shira did not face punishment in the traditional sense, her position as a respected member of the village was irrevocably diminished. She spent her days in solitude, the weight of her betrayal heavy on her heart. Though Zawadi had every right to harbor anger towards her stepmother, she chose not to. Instead, she focused on building her future with Mwamba and ensuring that their legacy would be one of love, compassion, and strength. She often spoke to the young women in the village about the importance of staying true to oneself, of not allowing jealousy or deceit to cloud one's heart. Her story was a testament to the fact that love, true, unwavering love, could overcome even the greatest of obstacles. The story of Zawadi and Mwamba became a tale passed down through generations. It was a story told around fires at night, in hushed whispers to children before bed, and in songs that echoed through the village. It became a legacy, not of a beautiful woman who won the prince's heart, but of a woman who, despite betrayal, held on to love, forgiveness, and resilience, and in doing so, triumphed. Zawadi and Mwamba's reign continued for many years, and as they grew older, their story was woven into the very fabric of Ubunzu's culture. Their love, rooted in truth and unwavering faith, remained a guiding light for the village, reminding them that even in the face of betrayal, one could still find a path to peace, unity, and growth.